Welcome to Truman's Town Hall with your host, Matt Truman.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for downloading, subscribing, all that jazz. Today with me is the Red Rooster. We're going to bring on our guest for the evening, Mr. Damon Appel. Mr. Appel is the founder of the Ohio Election Forum and Church of the Exempted and the man of many protests. Mr. Appel, thank you for joining us here on Truman's Town Hall.
Good to be here. Thanks, Matt.
So first, I wanted to show everyone and announce, I guess this may be an exclusive, well, at least for a few of us. But tonight on 60 Minutes, our president, the great one, Joe Biden, announced that the pandemic is over. So,
who did you say that guy was?
Well, he's some of our president. Well, he's the president of the United States. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, that's been a fun thing. For those who've seen the Ohio Election Forum interviews I did with the Republican State Central Committee candidates, I asked them all that. We had some great stinger questions, some fun responses, unexpected. So that's always a great question to ask someone. Who is the president right now? Right.
Right.
No one, we would, I think you guys are in a relatively close age group to me, right? I don't think when we were young, we would ever have thought that there would be a legitimate reason for us to ask that question and say, I don't know. I know there's a guy who got a lot of votes. He was pretty popular. And there is the guy in there right now, and he was nowhere near as popular. And there's a lot of funny stuff going on, So anyway.
Definitely. So let's start with this. Give us a little background about yourself. Tell us who you are and what you've been doing. You are the founder of the Ohio Election Forum, and it gets a lot of buzz. I've been following it for a little while. So,
yeah. So I'm Damon Appel. I'm just an everyday guy, right? Who, like so many of us, just looked at what was happening in 2020, 2021, and said, there's got to be something, got to do something more about it. We cannot just sit back and let this be our lives, right? To be slaves to a government gun amok, in the freest country in the world. But I'm Damon Appel. I guess this might be a little bit of a bombshell for some of your viewers. There's a lot of people who know, some people who don't, but I'm actually no longer in Ohio. This summer, after the campaign that I did for Attorney General, I went to see my mom in Florida, and she's thinking, age is sitting in, and wanted to have someone close to her that she could trust again.
Sure.
So within the last couple of weeks, I'm actually now. I've gotten a real governor from me, right? Ron DeSantis. But it's a strange thing because my heart still belongs in Ohio.
Sure.
And I made so many connections, and I'm still passionate about what's happening there. I mean, I think we're going to be talking about DeWine and all this stuff. It's incredible to me, Matt, Waylon, to see Red Rooster. Should I call you Red Rooster? Red, I'll call you Red. So, it's amazing to me to see all these people that I was on the street, some of them on the streets with. I mean, spending time of our own lives after work, I took a lot of time off work because I didn't want work to say, oh, well, wait a minute, you were skipping out on business. No, I took tons of days off, tons of afternoons off to do these protests and everything. in 2021, and I probably did over 100 of them. Some I ran, and to see some of those same people that I was out in the street with, and now it's almost like I want to say the gall of them to actually say, well, you better vote for DeWine because you don't want Whaley in there. It's like,
Right.
really? That's not what, I might be in Florida now, but I'll tell you one thing. If I was still there in Ohio on November 8th, I wouldn't be flicking the lever for the guy who made us wear masks, shut down businesses. I'm actually very perturbed about this, man. Very perturbed.
No.
I'm sure you got more questions for me. I can go on tangents, so why don't you?
Well, what I'll do real quick is let me share something with everybody just to remind them what you're talking about.
Dr. Acton, who has done such a phenomenal job, just signed an Ohio Health Director's order. Dr. Acton just signed a stay-at-home order for all Ohioans. Other states have referred to this as shelter in place. We prefer stay at home. Either one, it's pretty much the same thing. And that order will be up online shortly. You'll have the opportunity to look at it. But let me just start by saying that there really is nothing in that order that we have not already been talking about. There's nothing in that order that I have not been asking you to do for the last week or so.
So that's Mike DeWine. That's who we have elected the first time, and now folks are really going to go back and elect this guy a second time. I don't get it. You just recently did an interview with a couple of folks, or one person, Marshall Usher. Is that right?
Yes, he's a good guy.
Yep.
Great guy.
And he's a write-in candidate. So what was your experience with that?
Well, it's funny because I just mentioned, I was moving a couple weeks ago. So I had taken a week and a half off roughly. And money's tight. So I actually got the cheapest way I could do it, which was a high roof cargo van. And I had to return it to Ohio, but it was kind of cool. I got to go down with my buddy, go down to Florida, drop my stuff off, storage locker, head back north, right? And then drive down in my car. Got a couple friends of mine, including, they're both of them are now kind of involved in the Ohio election forum. And they're both in the Delaware area, which is where Lewis Center, which is where Matthew Usher lives. And Marshall Usher lives. And so I really went out of my way trying to schedule that. I want to I don't know if I'll be able to do a lot more interviews the way I did. And if that's
Sure.
the last one, I wanted that to be the one, because, and think of this. This is a guy who doesn't have to do this, right? Doesn't have to do this, put yourself out there. I know what this is kind of like because I went for the independent candidacy for Attorney General because, I couldn't believe that January, no one stood up. I thought, well, there has to be some lawyer who's going to stand up and go against Yost. I mean, Yost is just as much, Yost and LaRose, Secretary
Right.
of State LaRose, they are just as much responsible for what DeWine did in 2020 going into 21. And Yost, most of all, I mean, he's the top cop in the state, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's the one who should have been issuing statements saying, no, you're not going to close your business. No, you're not going to force your employees to put this on their face. This is unconstitutional. And Governor DeWine, I'm independently elected. I'm sorry, you don't get to do this, Republican or not, So, but Marshall, yeah. I mean, gray head on his shoulders, pretty sharp on his responses and everything. And I've interviewed quite a few people now to know is
Yeah.
right there really thinking about this. And it boggles my mind. And we just talked about this. It boggles my, and you saw, and you played the video. You played the video of Mike DeWine in prime tyrant mode, right?
Certainly.
And you know, and it's this.
I won't
gentle,
forget that.
Yeah, I don't forget it.
I won't
It's
forget that.
it's this gentle, like, you know, Weasley kind of like, well, you know, we've been talking about this, and well, now it's a law. You know, now it's an order. Now it's an order. It's here. You know, we prefer to
Yeah.
call it stay at home. Some people call it lockdown, but you know, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah,
it's here now, folks.
it's a lot like politicians today, left-wing politicians, if I will, saying, you know, well, yeah, we're not going to call them pedophiles. We're going to call them minor attracted people. You know, it's to that level of sickness, in my opinion, but that's just me.
Yeah.
What say you, Red Rooster?
Well, we're talking about DeWine here a little bit. Is it true that Trump just endorsed him, or am I reading the wrong information?
No, Trump just endorsed DeWine.
Yeah, I mean that blows my mind. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'd rather have Trump than what we've got now, but he's endorsing some people that I wouldn't think that he would have endorsed, and DeWine's one of them.
Right.
But
well, there's one thing with Donald Trump that still bothers me. He's, in my opinion, he's Operation Warp Speed, right? And when he comes out and says, you know, that was a mistake, I shouldn't have did all that, I went a little too far, then maybe he might get reelected. Until then, I don't know. But
well, he's endorsed mine, and then also J.D. Vance that said he was a never Trumper. So all these little
and Frank LaRose,
all these little backdoor deals, something is going on that just seems odd. So I mean, I don't get it, but I'd rather have Trump than what we've got right now.
Well, you know, this is
he's running.
Good. Yeah. Well, you know, this is a weird thing, right? Like, still support Trump, right? Still support Trump from the standpoint of what he did for the nation in terms of the year 1 through 3, right? 2016 through, or 2017 through 2019. But you know, Matt, we were talking in the pre-roll, right? Like about the candidates gathering down in Brookville last weekend of April, right? And
right.
And if you remember, I had a Trump magnet, and I threw it on the floor, and I said, "Hey, I'm not his servant. I serve Jesus Christ." You know, and here's the thing. And the reason I was so upset then was because the endorsement that Trump did not have to do in any shape or form was the endorsement of Attorney General Dave Yost. And I thought, how funny is this? Here's a guy, and turned out I got probably over 1,800 signatures. At the time, I had counted 1,700, and then, you know, a couple weeks later, found, oh, here's a few more, here's a few more. And most of them, to be honest, I mean, it was a godsend. I mean, like, I'd been making a lot of campaign speeches, been everywhere, actually drove my health into the gutter going after that weekend. But most of those signatures, probably 1,400 of them, I got in the last week. You know, had I been able to be in longer. Yeah, and you know, got a comment on there. Frank LaRose was endorsed, but I think the funny thing is I made an appointment with the Secretary of State office for Monday the 4th, right? Monday the 2nd, to take my signatures in at 2:30 p.m. Right, and I made that appointment like Tuesday at noon or something like that on the PC at home. Right, the next day, I think it was when Trump endorsed Yost, and I thought, wow, they're that scared. They're that scared that they run to Papa Trump, right? to get an endorsement, you know, I mean, come on, you know, I'm an independent. I've got a long shot here, and you're that afraid that you want to cut my last 3 days of getting signatures. I just thought that was amazing. Whoever, if it's not Trump, whoever's in charge of the endorsements is definitely part of the swamp. I mean, I don't understand how you could say it any other way. Vance? I mean, you know, let's look at like at some of these other ones, right? Mike DeWine, okay, I could see. I wouldn't do any endorsement, right, if I was Trump, but I could see if someone's saying, well, we can't lose Ohio, Republican, yay, right? I could almost see that one, but I don't see endorsements for people who don't need one, right?
Right.
No one running against, no one now effectively running against LaRose, no one running against Yost. Why? And then Vance, of all people, Vance, who runs a venture capital firm, and on the site Narya they show that I forget the name of the company now. I remember his venture capital firm, but they have it pretty pronounced. Maybe it's changed now, but they have where it's a medical firm, a medical startup in California, and guess what they're into? Yeah, that's right. That same technology that was used in, Operation Warp Speed, I think that's what we're talking about, right?
Okay.
But I mean, I think that's the other thing, right? Like, what is going on? How deep is the darkness we're in, right? Yeah, I mean, what is our Operation Warp Speed, and Trump's still saying it's the best thing since sliced bread? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was just gonna. Years ago, you couldn't fathom what's happening now. It's hard to understand and to follow all of this. It's strange. It truly is. So let me share one thing real quick. Let's see if I can find it. If this is it. So you were at a hearing for House Bill 248, which was essentially health freedom here in Ohio. And we had the chairman of that meeting was Representative Scott Lips. Scott Lips.
Yeah.
Is his
Make
name.
sure you call him representative. Yeah. Go ahead.
So I made a little video because this is kind of when I was introduced to Damon Appel, and I'll share this little deal here. This is America, and there should be certain things that happen in government. The government is we the people, but some, I feel like Representative Lips, don't understand that. But here, check this out.
First thing I'd like to state is when you refer to representatives, you don't call them by their names, you call them representatives. If you ever present here again, I think you're extremely disrespectful. And I think you trying to come and convince us to support your bill, calling us fascists, liars, and that we're on vacation is a really interesting way to convince us to support your bill. So thank you for being with us today. You're excused.
Excused. You at that point.
Did you have the rest of that? Did you have the rest of that? Because
well, I have some of it.
Okay.
Here, let me. It's kind of me doing a.
Oh, okay. Well, no. I mean, I can fill people in. I mean, after that, I actually stood back up to the mic. And I
Hang
said,
on once.
Undeterred.
Right.
I'll just say, yeah. Undeterred. I said, you have it?
Well, I that was from a video clip I did after I watched that.
Sure.
So, and I just kind of gave my little 2 cents on it. I saw you get up there and speak, and I don't think you were rude at all. So you made, you didn't call them representative, but he wasn't a very nice person.
No.
I don't know.
Well, and I undeterred at that. I stood up and I said, I just spoke calmly in the mic, said, you took an oath to the Constitution of the United States. And he says, oh, get this guy out of here. And I'm like, I'm going.
Right.
And the funny thing is he actually had the transcript. Now I changed it a little. When I do those hearings, I would tend to change a little bit based on what other people said. Like the beginning of my speech might be a little weird if you weren't there, because I said, like, I'm very fond of freedom, because some guy came up there first on the other side saying he was fond of something. He was supposedly some expert. And I just like, Well, I'm fond of freedom, and
Right.
but they had the bulk of my testimony in writing, and they didn't say, like, hey, Mr. Pell, before you start your speech, I notice you don't have representative listed, I think it was, and the other one, you don't have them, marked by their title. You better do that. No, they didn't say that. He led me into that. If you saw the hearing from the beginning, all the way in the beginning, he mentioned that whole thing. He was very sensitive about that whole vacation stuff, right? Like, oh, hey,
Right.
we were actually working. Some people are using this as a method of getting at us. It's like, no, you're on vacation when you are not holding hearings, when no one can actually do the hearings that we were in. Guess what? That's vacation. Now you might do some extracurricular work. Good for you, Scotty. But
Right.
but here's another terrible thing, right? We talked about what people are doing now, even good people, right? Patriots, people we would say are grassroots, the heart of the grassroots. I mean, Scott Lips was voted back in, right?
Mm.
I mean, or he made it through the primary. I mean, it's sick. It's sick. I don't know.
I'm having a hard time understanding how a lot of these politicians who are like that, who don't. I hear a lot from other people, from folks I talk to. They think like myself, yourself, Red Rooster, right? They think like all of us, but they're too afraid to step out on their vote and vote with conviction. They just, okay, he's a safe vote. I'm going to go. DeWine's a safe vote. If I vote for DeWine, then you know what? I'm not going to get Whaley. Well, guess what, folks?
Yeah.
DeWine is up in the polls by like 20%. I don't know. Don't quote me on that, but it's a lot. 14%, I think, is the real number. But you're not going to save yourself by continuing to vote these same folks in. You're voting in a rhino or you're voting in a Democrat. To me, that's one and the same, folks.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, it's what do you want to do on the Judgment Day? Do you want to go before our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ and say, I know I spoke out against this guy DeWine. I know I was at protests where people were about to lose their jobs because they weren't going to stick something in themselves, and I was standing up for their rights. But hey, when it came time to vote, well, he's better than the Democrat. I mean, really?
Right.
Really?
Right.
What I like to real quick, what I like to say
Yeah.
online when people do that is I like to say, hey, Whaley locked down a city, not the biggest of cities in Ohio. DeWine locked down a state. So you tell me what's worse.
Right. Right. There was a comedian, Waylon, you may remember Jim Brewer.
Oh, yeah.
Have you guys seen Jim Brewer stand up? It's on YouTube. It's free. Anyone can watch it. I'm going to share just a little bit of it for everybody to see. And it goes into what we're kind of talking about right now. So here we go.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Right.
This is great.
Wow. Well, thank you all for coming out and risking your lives. There's still people going, you're not really going out in public indoors, are you? The Delta, the Omega, the Charlie Brown.
Stay inside. This is never ending.
This guy's excellent.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
He's surprisingly clean in this one.
Old people would
Doesn't get
stay in the basement. How long am I supposed to stay there? safe. Yeah.
You guys have
See-
got to go watch that.
See, that makes me think of a couple things here, right? One, regarding comedians, right? This shows how phony all the comedians are. Your Fallon, who's the guy on
Yeah,
Kimmel?
the mainstreams.
Kimmel.
Yeah.
I mean, this is comedy gold. What has happened the last 2.5 years? I'm sorry, it's terrible, but it is also comedy gold because it is just so ridiculous, right?
Right.
But now on the serious side of things, again, going to the points of what people are talking about with, well, better vote for DeWine because he's not Whaley. I'm like, wait a minute. Do you remember when you couldn't visit your loved ones in the nursing homes? You had to go and sit outside the window. I mean, did you forget that? Do you remember who was responsible for that? And yes, it was Amy Acton, and yes, it was a series of other largely forgettable health directors after that. But it was DeWine. Yeah.
It was DeWine.
Yes.
A lot of politicians like to look to their left and the right and go, "Isn't that right, Bill? Isn't that right, Linda?" They like to do that because then that puts the onus on them. No, you're the leader. You were the elected one. You can choose. You can decide on what to do. It's the buck. My name's Truman, right? The buck. Harry Truman had that little plaque said the buck stops here. It stops with them. And they need to understand that. Politicians are servants to the people, and they're not really understanding that these days. They want to control you. They want to take. I don't get it. I don't understand why this control mentality continues.
It's evil. It's pure evil. I mean, this
certainly.
was a time. I think in the intro I had you say, also Church of the Exempted, and I haven't actually been able to do much then. There might be a couple people that I left in the cold here in the last couple of months. Just I've been busy with the move and everything, and my apologies to them. But I did write over 150 religious exemptions over the last year.
Wow.
And it takes a lot of time because it's not just copy paste, and I'd help them with what they're submitting, not just what I'm writing for them. And the thing is what I like to say is I'm not the type of preacher that's going to say, oh, maybe it's not the mark. Maybe it's something. It's not the mark. It's something else. You know what? Maybe it is. Maybe it is. I like to say it's the mark lying in wait, right? It's either the model by which the future mark will be, or and we don't want to get into too much of this here, I think, at this platform, but I think, or the contents of it and what is bound to happen. And we're even seeing some mainstream media reports on this now. What's bound to happen is going to reveal how evil it is, So these people like DeWine, they are evil. And I'm not saying Whaley is not evil. Whaley is certainly evil, right? But
definitely,
there is no better of two evils. There's just truth and untruth. There is good and there is darkness. It's really come down to that these days. I
think that's being shown to all of us.
Yeah.
Waylon has been preaching the word for a long time. What is this? Do you think it's getting more evil, Waylon, or do you think,
Oh, yeah.
has it always been there? We just haven't noticed.
Yeah,
Internet's bigger.
It's just getting worse and worse. And actually, you talk to different people. A lot of people are thinking great revival is going to come. And yeah, you'll get moments in time where people gather more than normal. But it always fizzles out and the world always gets darker and darker. I just want to go back real quick to what you were saying about those shutdowns and when people couldn't see their loved ones in the nursing homes. Some of the darkest times is when certain people had total power. Look back through history when when people reach that total power moment where they could control everything. When I look back, my dad was over there in Huber Heights at the assisted living center during the COVID time.
Right.
And everybody was so scared about what the nurses were going to think, or the doctors, or all their laws and their regulations about you can only be 6 feet. Matter of fact, that comedian Jim Brewer talked about the 5 foot dangerous, but they got a
6
lot.
foot safe.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and this is a true story.
The circles in the floor. Yeah.
Yeah. And this has made me one of the maddest I've ever been in my life. My dad was at the assisted living. I would go visit him during COVID, and then it got real tight on restrictions. And you couldn't be so far, so close to him. And then he reached out that last day, and he was going to shake my hand. And the rule was that if you had contact with him, you got too close, that they were quarantined for 2 weeks. They couldn't come out. They couldn't do nothing. I was actually waving him at times through the window. And
wow.
I thought, well, I don't want to do that, Dad, because I don't want you to get in trouble and have them put you in the room for 2 weeks. And he died before I could ever touch him, shake his hand, hug his neck, anything.
Man.
If I had to do over again, I'd probably kick the door in, run into his room, push every nurse out of the way, and give him the biggest hug that I possibly could. But we were all in that mode where you had to obey certain restrictions and do this and don't do that. And to me, that was a test of what they really want to do and what they really want to control. And the sad part is that most of the country, well, I don't want to say most, but a lot of the country fell for it. And they believed the danger. They believed how bad that they thought that it was. And then that fast one day, it's just over with. And you're thinking, how can something that deadly and that serious just all of a sudden go away? And I think that was a trial of what they're really wanting to do. And I think, yes, it's going to get very dark. And I think they're go ahead.
No, it's go ahead. Well, I was just going to.
We're hungry.
I was just going to say that. That, when you said most of the country, no, it was all the country. In end of 2020, I was thinking, maybe for New Year's, I'll get away. I'll go to some other state. I'll go to one of these free states. I'll go to Florida. I'll go to Miami. I'll go to, Tampa or something like that. I looked, and then I looked at what's the other one? South Dakota. What's her name? Can't think of her name. The other governor.
I know who you're talking about.
No, Kristi Noem. Yeah, Kristi Noem.
Yes.
So I looked in there. I looked at all the major cities. All the cities had some sort of mask order and some sort of rule on distancing. And so when you think of this, right? These people haven't all just left. They're all still there. That's one thing people got to realize. These evil SOBs, they are still there. And you have to understand they're going to go for this again. So now is the time to shine your light. Now is the time, that's all the more reason why Ohio needs to vote right in Marshall Usher, because it should show them, look, you might scoot by, you might get Nan in, you might get Mike in, but we're hot on your heels. So you better move fast, you fascists. Because I think that's the thing is, people, that's a whole nother topic here. And I don't know how much time, I don't even ask you, how long we're going to be doing this, man?
I guess we're doing it for a little while.
All right. So,
go ahead.
The Republican State Central Committee, right? People were saying, oh, well, we shouldn't, we should wait until January to get Paduchik out, and I'm like, no, act now, get him out, move fast, do not wait. And we saw what happened a couple Fridays ago, it was, well, you had, what's his face put up a phony thing that he retracts and and then it just went south from there. I mean, the point is you need to, when I think this is a principle of war, right? When your enemy is confused, when your enemy is rushed, that is the best place you want your enemy in. That's where they put
folks
us
just
in.
need to read The Art of War. I have it right here. Yeah. It's on the shelf. The Art of War, folks. It's all in there. When you're strong, pretend you're weak. When you're weak, pretend you're strong. All that good advice is in The Art of War. Yeah. There was something when you're talking about Bob Paduchek, who is the chairman of the Republican Party in Ohio. I listened to it was a radio show, Always Right Radio, with doggone it, I forgot the guy's name. Bob France. There it is.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And it was this past Tuesday, and he was with Jessica
France.
Yeah, same. I mean, close to the same name. And she laid it down. She's newly elected to the Central Committee, and she laid down what actually happened out there. There's some folks that are being elected to Central Committee, and I think that's where you rebuild it. And they're going to catch on to that, though, because, these politicians aren't dumb.
Oh, yeah.
They're idiots, right? And they want to come after our freedoms, but they're not dumb in the political sense is how to be a sleazy, slimy politician. They're not ignorant in that respect. They're ignorant in actually what freedom is all about. And but anyway, check that out.
Yeah. They're serpents, and we're told to be wise as serpents, harmless as doves, right? That's
right. So you were talking about the write-in candidate. Let me play a clip of the interview you did with Marshall Usher real quick. I will go ahead and share that video. Stand by, folks. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen. Damon Appel with Marshall Usher, write-in candidate.
What are you planning to do strategically? Tip the odds in your favor because, right, they're loaded for the parties. And even the independent candidates, as we saw with Neil Peterson, have a hard time getting all the signatures, right? So what is your plan as a write-in candidate along with Shannon to overcome all this?
So, great question. First off, you can count me in the number of people that were hoping that you would throw your hat in the ring as well. So, we can get into that as well whenever we kind of talk about why I'm doing it. But at the end of the day, I think what will make or break this thing is a couple things. One is how do we define winning, right? I mean, winning the election, like you said, is it's a tough fight. It's a long hill, a long shot to be an independent, let alone a writer. So I think the path to victory, or at least the path to success, is a couple things. One, it's building on the base and keeping up the momentum that we saw started with Joe and Fly Senate his campaign. I joined Joe in October of last year. Quickly became part of his trusted circle, and touring around the state. We met a lot of really great folks that were just looking for a change. Yeah, and those are the ones that we really need to reach out to. Strategically, I think the number is 13%. Did you ever read Malcolm Gladwell's Tipping Point?
No.
Yeah. So it's anytime you want to achieve mass market success in anything, whether it's taking a product to market or in politics, if you can get 13% of the market or the electorate to buy into what you're selling or talking about, then at that point it starts to become self-fulfilling. So you have enough evangelists out there that will help spread your word for you. So if we can get to the 13% with the base, then
it's
the fighter's chance.
It's funny. I always write down a whole bunch of questions. People never see them. Well, actually, my cameraman Eric's seen them. So when they're in the raw state, but I never do them in the order. Or rarely do them in the order. And you're in sales, right?
I am.
So do you feel that that's something that's going to?
All right. So I hope folks watch that video with Marshall Usher. I think you did a great job. I'm very envious of the camera angles. You had several camera angles, and the edits were great. It was a great video. What was your experience there?
What's my experience been with the feedback on these, or
Yeah,
or you want to know? But yeah. Oh yes, it's been great. I mean, actually, so if you're familiar, I'm sure you are, with Facebook groups and everything.
Certainly.
You get, when your group is healthy. Now, if your group is not healthy, if you have a lot of fact checks and all that type of stuff, and you're just letting the fact checks sit there, you're not pulling them down, and then your feed is like nothing, then you may not see this stuff. But when your group is healthy, you see post reach as an admin, right? And then you also see a panel of what's happening. And that video is up to post reach 4,200 and just under 2,500 video views. The Blystone video back in early April, that did 9,000 video views and 18,000 post reach. All these, surprisingly, all of these videos I did with the Central State Committee candidates, which was a great time. I rushed. I did a lot of editing. The editing wasn't as good on some of those with the audio sync, so I apologize for that. But that was a fun time, and I was going to interviews, filming them, editing them, and all that stuff. But a lot of those got 2,000, 1,500. Some got the one with Stephanie Kramer and oh, he's going to kill me because I can't think of his name right now. But that one, Jacob Eilerman, that one did 3,200 views. I mean, it was, so it is possible for us to use these wicked platforms. And please, people, if I can convince patriots, grassroots out there, don't let the platforms win. You know what they're going to do. You know what they're going to censor. So don't say the words just because you have the freedom to say it and you're going to say it. We know you're patriots. You don't have to prove it to us. Don't lose your status on the platform. Use it. Use it against them, because if we just stay in there long enough, like cockroaches, right? And we build this, you never know when one of us is going to go viral, right? And then once that happens, once the fire gets out there, it's going to be too late. It's going to be too late. One of us are going to be out there, and that's what we do. It's in God's hands, and maybe it won't happen, but it's a possibility.
Do you ever think that you'll come back to Ohio?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know in what fashion, but actually, I've been thinking. Well, there's a number of reasons that I went down here. Like I mentioned one, but also financially, I'm not in the best shape, so I need to take care of some of that. But this election season, you never know. Maybe it's worth driving up there for something. And I'll mention it now because I thought about it today. Because what was I watching? I was watching someone, I think I was watching Sam McGuire show, and you're probably familiar with him. He's interviewing a lot of people on podcasts, and he was interviewing Marshall Usher, and I mentioned something about trying to get a debate with DeWaley and DeWine, and DeWine won't even debate Whaley.
No.
What if us patriots did our own debate? We'll debate all the write-ins. We'll host all the write-ins, and the moderators.
Is a great idea.
Yeah, the moderators could be you, me, Sam, someone else. It would be interesting. And
I think that's a fantastic idea, because when you're looking at these big politicians, they have millions of dollars, but what they don't have is the ability to gather the grassroots folks to come out. We're out here, and we're ready to see new candidates. We're tired of the DeWines and the Whaleys. They're lipstick politicians, and that's all they are. They really don't want to do and serve the people the best way that they can. they're serving themselves essentially.
Well, man, I thought you were going to say something, and there's more to that.
Go
They
ahead.
need to look good. They need to look good in every shot.
Yeah.
You know what? Right now, my lighting is the best. Whatever, we're going with it, right?
Right.
And it's okay. It's okay because it's the heart. It's what we're saying. It's our passion that matters. It's not how it looks. So you know what? We don't care if it looks a little scrappy and we have some write-in candidates and maybe the right words weren't said and it isn't super polished. We got some polish. I think some of us do, Matt. You, me, a lot of, we have some polish. But
I'll tell you what,
we can do
Marshall
the,
Usher, with your interview that you did, that impressed me. That really impressed me. He's no slouch. He's got a brain, and that really impressed me. That interview. He's, we may not agree 100% of the time. I can almost guarantee I won't agree on his abortion stance. However, I still think he's pretty bright, and he has a constitutional mind. He has a patriotic mind, and I think I might be writing him in come November 6th. So,
well, he was definitely one of the better interviewees, right? In terms of in terms of polish, and and unexpectedly, I didn't really, because we were at his home, right?
I don't think he's polished. I think that's just who the guy is. I mean, at least that's how he came off to me. Yeah.
Well, what I mean by that, let me describe what I mean. I really mean like ability to think on his feet. Maybe that's the best thing. The ability to think on his feet. And there's a lot of people, so I'm not dissing anyone, but one of the most fun interviews I did was with Blystone. But you know what? One of my favorite interviews was with Rick Barrett, who was running against Dave Johnson, the treasurer of the state Republican committee. Went out to see him, and man, was that a fun interview. That was such a fun interview.
What was so fun about it?
His passion, just the way he spoke, just very openly and very, very, like when I asked him, who the president of the United States is, he says, it's Donald J. Trump. It's just,
right.
And we had already been in, 20, 30 minutes of interview. So it was just, it was just so natural. I think that's the thing that made me enjoy that so much. And I'm not taking away from any of the other ones. There's so many great interviews, but I'm just saying like those, so Marshall, yes, was very much thinking on his feet, talking really solid, really, really solid. Yeah.
Good deal. So I have something here from, we were talking about President Trump. Some would say former President Trump. I know it's here.
Remember, it's always appropriate, even after they're out of office, to call them President of the United States, right?
Exactly. This is President Donald J. Trump.
Last night. Is that last night then?
That's last night. Well, if it'll play.
If it'll play.
They know I want to play it. That's why they're not going to play it. Mm-hmm. Well, that's live, folks. That's live for you. Let's see if it'll. We can talk. Look at my pillow.
There's Mike Lindell. Yeah, I like that.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to play.
They should show. He should change his picture so now he's got like a hand reaching into his pocket to get his phone, right? Yeah.
He pulled up to a burger joint. He was like, "Give me a number 1." Hold on, the FBI's here. Yeah, I'll take a Diet Coke. Hold on, I'm trying to order my Frisco cheeseburger over here. Wow. And then they got Dr. Frank's phone. Did you see that?
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody saw that. Wow.
Yeah.
Rooster, they're coming to get your phone next.
Whatever.
Mr. Appel, I appreciate you coming on Truman's Town Hall tonight. Is there anything else you want to leave the folks?
No, it's been fun, and thanks so much for bringing me into this. And it is funny that, like, you reached out to me after that HB 248 hearing, which I
Right.
think was August 24th, I think, of last year.
Yeah,
And
I did.
and we never caught up after that. And I'm like, oh, well, that would have been cool. But I think it was after my next protest, probably at Suma Health in Akron. I did those every week for 2.5 months. So I didn't really have time to think about it. But yeah, this has been very enjoyable. This has been awesome. So thank you for inviting me on. Appreciate it.
I was going to have, because I do the audio podcast. Go ahead, Waylon.
No, I was just gonna say, Donna, she loved it too. You see her on there?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Donna. Have no idea who you are, but God bless you. Thanks for watching us tonight.
Donna and Eric, thank you for watching. I do an odd, I have a face. Well, see, I got Rooster on there. I have a face for audio, for radio, as they say. So I did a lot of audio podcasts, and I was going to bring you on, and things get the way things get, and it never happened. And I'm glad I was able to get, this is a better form anyway, I think.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely.
And,
to watch that Jim, what was it, Jim Brewer?
yes.
Oh, he's funny. I got to 40 minutes. I'm going to finish the rest of it tonight when I go to bed. So he's hilarious.
I got to go finish the rest of it too.
Good to
God
meet
bless
you.
you guys.
All right, folks. Thanks for watching.